This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to this month's Rising Stars webinar. My name's Dan Hawes. I'm the GLB Group co-founder. I co-founded the GLB Group back in 1997 after graduating in business studies from Brighton University. The GLB Group have grown to become the go-to platform for high caliber university students, recent graduates, alumni and recruiters. We have over 40 staff and over 1,800 clients covering all sectors, companies you will have heard of like Post Office, IBM, Unilever and Ocado, but also several fast-growing SMEs that need graduate talent. In that time, our recruitment experts have successfully matched over 8,000 graduates with full-time graduate or executive level jobs. The GLB Group does a lot more than what it says on the tin. So Graduate Recruitment Bureau is our main service, providing search, selection and outsourced graduate recruitment services. We also have a platform called the Graduate Recruiters Network, an organisation with over 2,900 HR and recruitment experts. We also have a website called Graduate Mentor, launched back in August 2020. This is designed to offer graduates free one-to-one mentoring sessions with a range of mentors from different organisations. We also have Rising Stars, this programme, which has been in existence for over 10 years, mainly to showcase the talent that we have on our candidate talent pool. We also run a podcast every month called Student Diaries. We interview 3 students at university and share with recruiters who are very interested to find out what it's like to be a student. We also have many LinkedIn groups where we speak to recruiters, students and graduates. And also we have 2 experienced hire divisions that help more on an executive level, predominantly IT or data science graduates with up to 5 years experience. So there's a brief overview of the GLB Group. So, Rising Stars 2021. This is a unique opportunity for graduate employers to see a shop window of GLB's pick of the UK's finest graduating talent. Every month, our team of experts carefully screen and select who they think are exceptional university students, basically the best in class graduating students for 2021. We will showcase a shortlist of 50 rising stars on our website, enabling you to view their profiles and request a CV. Access to these CVs is entirely free. In addition, every month, we will host a short webinar interviewing a small selection of rising stars, where we discuss more about what they're looking for from an employer when they start their career. So I'm delighted to welcome our 3 rising stars today. We have Ryandeep, Josh and Cerys. And if you could each introduce yourself, starting with Ryandeep, please.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Dan. So my name is Ryan, and I'm a final year student of mathematics at the University of Nottingham. And naturally, I've got quite a bit of analytical and numerical experience because of that. But I think the main takeaway that I got is sort of the problem-solving aspect, and that's what I really want to apply to my working life. And I think usually people are quite surprised when I say that I do mathematics as well, because I like to think I'm quite a people's person. That's again a really big thing that I'm looking for, sort of people, client-focused role to apply with that problem-solving side.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. Josh.
Thanks, Dan. So my name's Josh Halliday. I'm 22 years old and I'm in my final year of university at Nottingham Trent. I study business management and leadership, which is accredited by the CMI Institute. I also work as a buying assistant at a large pharmaceutical company in the UK. So really my day-to-day life is sort of the mix of those 2 things, managing those 2 things, which I have done for the past 3 years, and looking forward to finish that in the summer this year.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Cerys.
Hi, thanks, Dan. So I'm Cerys, a 3rd and final year politics, philosophy and economics student. I volunteer to support a variety of different causes, and I'm also a member of a senior leadership team as part of a student-run consulting organisation, and generally interested in a career in management consultant. consulting, and more specifically strategy consulting.
Excellent. Thank you. Right. Well, let's find out a little bit more from each of you about what you're looking for specifically from your first employer. So perhaps we can start with you, Ryan. What are you looking for from an employer?
Yeah, of course. So I think there's three main things that I've narrowed down that I'm really looking for, and I'd sort of be team, culture, being able to utilize my skill set, and then just real exposure as well. So firstly, with that team and culture, a place that I actually enjoy the people that I'm working with and can really learn from them as well, and enjoy learning from them day to day. I think that's really important, and somewhere that really supports that and allows colleagues to genuinely get to know each other is what I would really like to work for. And secondly, utilizing my skill set. So I've had quite a few experiences, like I said, applying that problem solving side. I've been part of a charity consulting group called 180 Degrees Consulting, where we're able to work with a singular charity client and actually work with them to send solar lights, thousands of solar lights to rural Nepal through setting up a relationship with a sponsor. So working with a client there was really interesting, and sort of utilizing that skill set as well as that problem solving and analytical experience that I've got from sort of maths and other experiences is really great. And then finally, like I mentioned, that exposure and being able to really get stuck in is something that I'm really keen to do. I think that's the best way for me to be able to sort of develop my own knowledge, my own skill set, as well as my knowledge of the industry. And that's something that I've really, again, sought to do. So when I came to university, I wanted to get really involved with the Economics and Finance Society. Being a mathematics student, I was a STEM student, so I wasn't directly linked to that. So I went out on my way to really get involved. And I started by just being an analyst in their investment fund, so pitching stocks every 2 weeks and being part of a team of 8 to do that. And then I really wanted to get further involved, so then I put myself forward for vice president the next year and was successfully elected in to do that. And then from then I still wanted to stay involved in my third and final year, so then I was promoted from analyst in the first year to actual manager of the fund that I was an analyst for, to again just stay involved and manage to get a sort of different area of expertise from vice president to being manager. So I think that's why so far I've really enjoyed getting that exposure and carrying on pushing myself in that sense. And previously I've been really interested in sort of investment roles, particularly investment management, to utilize that problem solving set. But I think I'm also open to any role that it sort of just fits those three criteria, and I'll be able to, like I said, work in a great team, be able to really get exposed and utilize my skill set of mixing that analytical, that problem solving, and that client focus.
Great. Three very important things. The first thing you said there was team culture. So you want to feel welcomed initially, and then you want to feel valued and that you can make a contribution to your team. That's really important. Using your skill set. We speak to a lot of graduates who want to use their degree, understandably. And you mentioned there having a STEM discipline. So, obviously you're numerate, but other skills that you've picked up along the way, like you've got involved with those societies and demonstrated your ability in certain areas, will be very compelling to an employer. And then also exposure to other aspects of the business. And this goes for small and large firms. Smaller firms, you may actually be sitting opposite the MD or be asked to get involved with lots of other projects because of the size of the firm and some of the projects that they're working on require a huge amount of resource. Or on the flip side, you join a rotational program for a larger firm where you spend 6 months here, 6 months there, and then over the course of maybe 2 years, you can decide where your strengths lie, and the company can decide also where they'd like to put you. So that's completely reasonable to expect those three things, Ryan. Have you applied for any roles yet?
Yeah, so far, like I mentioned, my main focus has been investment management, and I also spread sort of my applications to other divisions within finance because that's where I've looked primarily. But I'm also sort of thinking about non-finance routes as well, and been suggested sort of tech and another industry. So I think while so far my focus has been investment management, and I'm in the process with a couple of companies, I'd be sort of open to anywhere, like I said, that utilizes that skill set.
It's anywhere in the UK, and you can start presumably from September or earlier?
Yeah, so I start from approximately mid-August onwards, ideally, and anywhere in the UK. I think I'm mainly interested in London as well. I'd really love to move there and work there being such a hub and obviously a great city, but anywhere in the UK would work, and ideally from mid-August onwards.
Right. And I guess location, maybe for some organisations, isn't so much of a concern, what with people being able to work from home. So there will be possibly organisations that have a hybrid approach. So you may have to actually go into an office eventually. But it does mean it's created lots of opportunities for graduates that can work 100% from home. And many people are getting used to it, having studied at university from home or a shared house and that kind of thing. So that's actually been a good thing. The way we work in the future for graduates could remove some of those geographical barriers. That's good. Okay. Thank you very much, Ryan. We'll come back to you in a bit.
Great, thank you.
Josh, can you tell us a little bit more specifically about what you're looking for in your first job?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's different for me because I come at it from a slightly different perspective. I've worked for 2 international companies since leaving A levels, really, and only in this role at the moment where I've managed to sort of mix my degree and work at the same time. So I've been managing both of those, and I guess in my current role at the moment, I've been working towards various knowledge, skills and behaviours in order to become successful in my role. And I guess really from an employer, I want to continue to develop those skills and behaviours. My role at the moment is quite broad, so I touch on lots of different business areas, including, well, predominantly stakeholder relationships, so managing stakeholders both internally through internal departments and also externally with suppliers and customers. So, you know, very much a customer focused view, but also that customer focused view can shift into an internal perspective. So managing those relationships, collaborating and communicating with those people effectively and appropriately. And I guess also being able to flex your communication style. So in order to, and that's a skill that I'd like to develop further with, you know, people. Well, at the moment, my focus is very much UK based. I'd like to sort of collaborate and communicate with people worldwide, globally, which is something I can't do at the moment. Right the way through across to sort of analysing data. So I work in quite a sales and a fast-paced department. So analysing data and problem solving is something which is done on a regular basis. Although there isn't really a structure and process for that at the moment. So really utilising those sort of skills and analytical skills further and applying them to a business would be a skill that I'd really like to develop. I guess also a couple of other things from more of a personal perspective, again, similar to what Ryandeep was saying, working for a business with an appropriate and valued culture, not a bureaucratic culture, but more so where employees all feel the same and feel valued for the work and the contribution that they do. And that can again be working for the business or working in several departments, and I guess just being recognised for the work you're doing and equally recognising the accountability that you have. I feel like that's something which I'd like to really value for the work I do, feel accountable and feel responsible for this sort of end-to-end process of that. And again, equally, we're in coronavirus at the moment, so that work-life balance, that's something which I've thought about within a graduate role, managing that appropriately. And if an employer would consider that in a role, then that would be something which I would definitely warm to. Especially because at the moment we don't know what the next working life is going to be post-COVID and how organisations and companies are going to change.
Yeah, that's a good point, because things have changed so dramatically. Employers are still trying to figure out job roles, job descriptions, and trying to be flexible with enabling people to work from home and from the office. So they're very much in a state of flux as well, and trying to figure all of this out. And thankfully, lots of employers we're dealing with have continued to hire graduates. We anticipated maybe onboarding or training might be problematic, having to do it remotely, but technology has stepped in, and actually we've been working with clients who've been doing virtual interviews, virtual assessment centres, virtual onboarding, virtual training, without actually bringing those graduates into work. So that creates a level of expectation now that graduates might want that flexibility moving into their first job, and it will, if employers are able to offer that will be very attractive to someone like yourself, Josh. But not only the flexibility you touched upon there, but also what Ryan spoke about working for a team that values your contribution. And also recognition you mentioned there as well, which is very important for all employees really. But certainly when you're beginning, you need to know if you're making the right steps in the right direction, because you are learning. And also, Josh, because you've had that work experience alongside your degree, that really shows in that you've got a very, very clear understanding of how businesses work, particularly if you've been working in a sales role. And that commercial awareness is really useful to an employer. And you're looking for employers who can develop that commercial awareness as you grow as well. So you're all very ambitious, and that's completely reasonable to expect an employer to be able to help you realize your potential. That's great, Josh. And in terms of your availability, when would you be looking to start?
So it'll roughly be probably the end of September or October 2021.
Okay. And have you made any job applications? Are you having interviews with companies? What kind of companies are?
Not at the moment. I'm sort of still researching the various business areas which I'd like to work in for a company. I know there's lots of graduate roles out there, but I wouldn't want to just apply for one for the sake of it or the sake of the company. I guess for me at the moment, I'm really trying to home in on what type of business area I want to work in, and equally consider those sort of logistical circumstances as well. So where the job would be based, if there were rotational placements, where those would be. I'm based in the East Midlands at the moment. I would like to kind of stay around that area. So again, consider that, and again, circumstances might change in 5 or 6 months' time.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll come on to how you're researching employers in a bit. But thank you very much, Josh, for explaining a little bit more about your checklist for employers for when you start work. Cerys, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Dan. So I think for me, there's three key things that I tend to look for. The first one is impact, and Ryandeep and Josh mentioned this already, but I really enjoy helping others. With the student-run consulting organisation that I'm a member of, we work to have a social impact. All of our clients tend to be charities or startups that sort of have that sort of aim of social impact. And I kind of really want to repeat this in my graduate role, and just seeing that the output of my work, both in the long term and short term, whether that's even just seeing improvements to businesses, helping their clients, or just generating ideas that put into practice. It's just I really enjoy seeing the impact that I have on supporting people. I think the second key thing would be a variety of work, whether this is the opportunity to work on rotation, as you mentioned, in sort of the larger firms across different areas of the business, or whether one individual role allows me to vary my work through conducting, for example, elements of analysis, of research, perhaps interacting with clients or working in projects. I really appreciate the sort of variety of work and sort of not doing the same thing every single day, which I think the industry of consulting allows you to do quite well anyway. And the final thing is openness. So the opportunity to sort of interact with colleagues in all areas of the business. And that's something that's quite important to me. And whether this is just a 5-minute coffee, talking to someone from tech, or whether this is the opportunity to work with another area of the business as part of a project for the client, or for another area of the business. And that's just really important to me. I like understanding different areas of the business as well as how they interact with each other. And it's always really like the opportunity to network within the company, and also understand different aspects of the business in terms of what their input is into helping a client, for example, because I think that would help me within my own role. And having an organization that really allows you and encourages you to do that is something that I'm really keen to work for. Yeah.
Good points. Just been making some notes there, Cerys. So you talked about having impact, which is something that all of you have touched on. That's great. I mean, any employer having a graduate that doesn't want to have an impact should ask questions. So that's great that you want to make a difference. Having variety, luckily a lot of graduate programs do have that as part of their makeup. You will find
Sorry, has it frozen for you guys?
It has, yes.
Right. I wasn't sure if I was the one who's frozen instead of everyone else. I guess I'll give him a minute or two and then perhaps email or call him. Let me just see if he left his number in the email.
Yeah, it does just say he's experienced technical difficulties.
Right. I think, yeah, we'll just give him a minute to sort of recalibrate, I guess, and then call him if he hasn't managed to get back through.
Yeah.
How are you guys finding it so far?
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it's quite smooth.
Yeah.
Up until the technical difficulties.
It's good to see new people, if I'm being honest. Good to see an
Yeah.
unfamiliar face, and
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
It's good to meet
Yeah,
you guys.
it'd be great to stay in contact with you guys, see how you're doing down the line.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So what universities do you guys both go to again?
I go to York.
Right.
And I'm just at Trent, just down the road from you, Ryandeep.
Yeah, exactly. Nottingham.
Okay, I
Are
just
you in?
went to Nottingham.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Exactly.
Oh,
Hi Dan. You managed to
Hi, Dan.
reconnect? Oh, we had him for a second.
Hi there. I don't know what happened there.
Hi.
No worries. It's
Don't
the
worry.
nature of the game with video calling.
Yep, it happens occasionally. We're all back on now, so we can edit this bit out. Okay. So, Cerys, we were talking about having networks and how that's really important for graduates who start their career to have this support group of maybe their other cohorts usually, and that they connect with, but also other senior people within the business that can maybe mentor you or act as buddies, alumni from your university perhaps. So that's really key, and not all organizations are geared up for providing that support. So having a ready-made network is really interesting. So Cerys, have you applied for employers opportunities at the moment? What stage are you at?
Yeah. So I've been applying for predominantly roles within consulting as well as sort of public sector work, looking at, for example, civil service and things like the business department. Just roles where you can sort of use your expertise to help people is kind of the key theme, I think, with my career goals. And I'm sort of midway through a few of those applications at the minute.
Sure. And when are you looking to start your first job?
Yeah, so I'm looking to start either sort of mid-June or sort of late June, that sort of time.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by 21st of June we'll be free and able to maybe actually on board with these organisations face to face. We have spoken to many companies who are gearing up to reinstating a lot of those face to face activities. And maybe keeping some of the virtual aspects because they've found them quite efficient actually. But certainly in June and the autumn when the rest of you are hoping to start, we'll be in a better position. Okay, I'd just like to find out a little bit more about how you've researched employers that you've applied for and what influences you. Perhaps we could start with Ryan.
Yeah, so definitely. So is it more so in terms of seeking them out in the first place or finding out more about them once you know about them?
Doing the very first bit of research, when you're sitting in front of a computer with Google in front of you, what are you typing in? What are you going for, big brands, or did you go to a careers fair, or what influences you?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a bit of a mix. So things like you said, careers fairs, which haven't been as easy this year because of naturally the non-university nature actually going in. But generally before that, in first and second year, I've been at careers fairs and definitely taken a note of companies that have interested me. And what I think is great about those is that you actually get the chance to meet people from the company, and that's been a big influence on what I've been interested in as well, in the sense of if I've run into someone, whether it's a careers fair or a networking event, I've definitely gravitated to companies where the people have really just seemed interesting and willing to talk to me and teach me as well. And like I mentioned during my previous answer, people that I could learn from. And so that's been a big one. And then also in terms of just personal research, so mainly looking in terms of the type of work that companies do, like I said, applying that skill set before, and also industry is what I've looked at. So while I said I'm not tied down to it, it has been something that's guided me before in terms of looking at finance companies, and particularly investment and investment management companies, and then just going more into detail in terms of that research and seeing what they're really about. And what I really like is when a company doesn't just say that they do X, Y, Z, but they actually have things to back it up. So for example, if they say that they work, for example, in diverse hiring or in climate change or positive action, then they actually have examples to back it up. They don't just make a general mission statement. Yeah. And then also in terms of just what they have available in terms of information of their companies, I find company YouTube channels actually really interesting, especially if they devote some time to actually putting up stuff, because that's sort of a substitute for meeting people from the company, because you still get to hear from what they say on the YouTube and get to get a feel of what the people and the culture is about from hearing from their people, and because you haven't actually met them in person, it's sort of, like I mentioned, a substitute. So those are the main avenues that I've used so far.
Brilliant. It's interesting you touched on the actual meeting someone face to face. Absolutely. I mean, that's why career fairs are so successful, because you get to meet graduates that may have joined last year, and you can find out from them and cut through all the marketing stuff and find out what it's really like working for that employer. So hopefully they will return. I know career fairs have been virtualized as well, but there's only so far they can be effective. So hopefully they'll return and other students can benefit. But also your own research, particularly looking at YouTube, it's good reason to tap into that, because it kind of replaces where you can't maybe go into an office. They do a virtual tour of their office. We've seen employers do that. But that's very, very useful for both sides. Great, thank you, Ryan. Josh, what's influenced you, and how have you gone about researching employers?
Yeah, I think it's a similar method to Ryandeep as well. It's a real mixed bag. I don't have a singular approach really. I guess the first thing for me really is understanding the business and the ethos of the business, looking at the reputation of the business, and I guess on their sort of early careers websites, you gain an impression really quickly of what their schemes are like, just from a visual perspective anyway. And I guess sometimes there's links to past or current graduates, or recommendations from people to apply for the role, and those recommendations are really important. Ultimately there's no other way of learning about the business unless you knew someone who worked for a business, and you could gain insight from them to how successful the scheme actually is, and really hearing it from an actual graduate instead of just the business on a website, for example, or on a YouTube video is really useful. So I value that quite a lot. And again, similar to Ryandeep, careers fairs, I've joined a few of those virtually, and they're really useful, and I imagine they're all very useful across most universities. And I guess, just really understanding what I want from a role, and looking at, again, job descriptions of graduate roles, sort of aligning to what I want, to what they're providing, and I guess looking into, potentially even away from graduate roles, what a typical role would be that I would want to go into, and can a graduate role really sort of progress those skills into that kind of role? Yeah,
that makes sense. You want to hear from other graduates who've joined the program and get their feedback. I mean, I know some employers are concerned about what goes on Glassdoor, things like that. Do you use?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do. I didn't know whether to mention that or not. Glassdoor is a very useful function, but I'm not. I'm always a little bit skeptical of how truthful the information is on there. So I have used it, but I haven't used it solely.
Yeah, I think that's what most people do. They'll have a look, and they expect one or two people that it didn't work out for, understandably, but they'll use it as part of researching lots of other information. So you're smart people, so you look at lots of different sources to make up your own opinion. But yeah, some employers do get quite nervous about what goes on there because they don't have so much control. But it does serve a purpose. If things are really dreadful at an organisation, then that needs to be shared, I guess. Okay, thank you very much for your feedback there, Josh. Cerys, how's your research gone, and where do you look for information?
Yeah, and I think it's sort of similar to Ryandeep and Josh again, but careers fairs are always useful, but more specifically like networking events, especially the ones sort of conducted online now. And again, just seeing that real perspective of the business, I think is really important. And not the sort of promotional sort of aspect of it, but in terms of people actually being very genuine about their experience about within the business. Even it's always nice to actually hear even aspects of things that they don't particularly enjoy, because it just feels a lot more real. Because we obviously, in a job, everything's, may not be absolutely perfect. But just to hear why they're still there and why they're still interested despite these aspects is really interesting to hear. And again, just sort of people being very, very honest about the business, I particularly enjoy. In terms of researching, I look at sort of LinkedIn jobs as always very useful tool, just in terms of you can filter aspects, because I'm sort of interested in roles, perhaps not just within the UK, but internationally. So it's always useful to look there. But again, I do further research into the company, as I think that the culture of a company is really quite important for me as well. So just understanding and getting a sense of that from their website or from YouTube or videos of people speaking about it is really helpful.
Yeah, that's interesting. You touched on that, because you want organisations to be authentic. We hear this word a lot, but it's just kind of just being honest. Like you say, it is a job. It won't be 100% perfect, but if you can tick off maybe 8 out of 10 things on your wish list, then that's pretty good. And LinkedIn, again, that's a great source of information to research employers, and also your line managers maybe, and maybe more senior people, just to see maybe the career trajectory that they took. You can see it's all mapped out on LinkedIn, and you can see how you potentially could progress. It's always good, of course, if very senior people are graduates themselves, because that gives it more credibility, I guess. Excellent. Okay, well, we're out of time. I just want to thank you all for sharing your insights today. I'm sure our Rising Star employers will be very interested to find out a little bit more about you. And if they are, all they need to do is to register for a Rising Star account. You'll be able to look at summary information of our 50 Rising Stars and request to look at their CVs. We can then help arrange interviews and assessment centres and things like that. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.